Good morning. It is about 10 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday, August 17th. And I'm going to make a video this morning really in response to a request of a viewer who has some fond memories of his youth down in this part of the state. And I am starting this ride out front of St. John of God Roman Catholic Church in North Cape May, located on Town Bank Road. I'll talk a little bit about this parish, and the parish right now is not called St. John of God. It's called St. John Newman. And my wife and I are members of this parish to the extent that we are down here and not at our home up in Pennsylvania. But under the umbrella of St. John Newman are two churches. One is the one that I'm looking at, St. John of God, here in North Cape May. And the other one is St. Raymond's, which is up in the villas. So that's the purpose of this video. I'm going to start this ride here. Circle the parking lot here just to give a good view of St. John of God, and then I'll take a ride up to St. Raymond and show that church. It's about 81 degrees today, partly cloudy. So anyway, back in 2008, when my wife and I purchased our home down here, there were two separate and distinct parishes, St. John of God and St. Raymond. And we live squarely in North Cape May. So this would have been our go-to church. And I think anybody that has sort of followed any of my videos knows from comments that that I am Catholic. My wife is Catholic, and this was the church that my wife went to when she was spending time down here with her family as a youth. We purchased our home in February of 2008, and right at about that time there was a consolidation going on in the Camden Diocese, and that consolidation resulted in cutting the number of parishes in the Camden Diocese basically in half. And that's a good view of St. John of God Church. The number of parishes went from, I think, about, in the Camden Diocese, went from about, I think, about 128 down to about 66. And there was a variety of reasons for that. I'm sure, the most driving force was financial in nature. I can recall at the time the presentations that the priest gave. So I'm leaving the parking lot of St. John of God now, and this is on Town Bank Road, just a little bit west of where the Cape May Winery is. Anyway, as I said, I think one of the driving forces was financial, and that was due in no small part to a significant decline in attendance. I recall the presentations that were made at the time, and they were pointing out that over the past 5 decades, the percentage of Catholics that were practicing Catholics, practicing in their definition meaning, observing the weekly obligation to attend Mass, had gone from about 75% 5 decades ago down to 24% in 2008. And that was a long, steady erosion. It wasn't that the sex abuse scandal of the Catholic Church hit the news and all of a sudden attendance fell off the cliff. That was not the case. There was a long, steady erosion as a result of the, I guess, my own view, and this is not anything official, but I think, in my own opinion, I think that as quality of life has improved, many people feel less need for religion in their life, as opposed to, earlier times. Try to think of how to describe this better than I am, but I think if your biggest concern in life is cable outage, unexpected cable outage, you have less of a need for religion in your life than if your biggest concern was crop failure at the onset of winter. So I think as society has, steadily improved the quality of life, I think people have generally felt less of a need in their life for religion. Now, no doubt, the sex abuse scandal that started getting publicized, the sex abuse took place, as we now know, over long periods of time, but it really, was not widely known for most of the time that it was taking place. But that certainly added fuel to the fire and served as validation for people that were not attending Mass to continue to not to attend Mass, because Mass was being celebrated, in their mind, by pedophiles. And even some people who were practicing Catholics and attending Mass were so disgusted by the sex abuse scandal and what was being done to these small kids, they could not bring themselves to sit and listen to the priest, so they sort of abandoned going to Mass. So in any event, for one reason or another, the attendance at Masses in the Camden Diocese went from about 75% down to 24%. At this same time, the number of people going into the priesthood steadily declined, and declined by half. So you had the number of people attending Mass dropping by 67%, coupled with the number of priests supporting that laity going down 50%. So as a result, there was a need to consolidate parishes. And down here in Lower Township, and there are other Catholic churches in Lower Township besides St. John of God and St. Raymond, But for this community, the decision made in Camden was to consolidate St. John of God and St. Raymond into one parish, and that parish is called St. John Newman. And both churches continue to be open, and there are basically two priests here. One is the pastor, and he basically celebrates Mass at St. John of God. And there is a retired priest that lives in the rectory, or lives down here, who celebrates Mass at St. Raymond's. And there was talk of even further sort of consolidation, and they never really defined what that meant. But during the pandemic, when attendance at Mass was curtailed by the state due to health concerns, they were finding it, very problematic to maintain and heat and pay utilities and everything else, taxes, insurance, on two campuses, when for a long period of time in 2020 neither was getting used. So anyway, that's sort of what led to the consolidation of St. John of God and St. Raymond into a single parish. Now, my wife and I, when we're down here, we typically go to St. Raymond's, even though our home is in the heart of North Cape May. And really, there's nothing more behind that decision than Mass times. We typically go to Mass down here on Sunday morning at the 8 o'clock Mass in St. Raymond's. So we come out of Mass at 9 o'clock, and usually we stop in the Villa's Diner on our way back home and have breakfast at the Villa's Diner every Sunday. Occasionally, we will go to Mass at St. John of God. And the biggest difference to me, honestly, is St. John of God seems to be a newer and sort of better equipped infrastructure than St. Raymond's. And by that I mean kneeling on the kneelers in St. Raymond's, for me personally, is not comfortable at all. There's almost no padding on the kneelers, so when you kneel down in St. Raymond's, it's almost like kneeling on wood. Whereas in St. John of God, the kneelers are very padded, so you could kneel there really in comfort. But in any event, that's sort of the story of these two parishes, and I'm coming up on St. Raymond's, and I'll pull into that parking lot when I get there. Now, my wife and I really, this is more than probably needs to or should be discussed on a public forum, social media, but my wife and I actually want to start attending the extraordinary form of the Mass. But the closest church to us down here, and this is St. Raymond's, the closest church to us down here that celebrates the extraordinary form of the Mass is up in Margate. It's about 44 miles away up the Garden State Parkway. So for those that are not Catholic and are not familiar, basically the extraordinary form of the Mass is the liturgy that was celebrated since antiquity to Second Vatican Council in 1962. And the liturgy was sort of revamped in 1962 with Vatican Council II, and the Mass is celebrated now almost everywhere in the vernacular, meaning in the language of the place that the church is. So anyway, this is St. Raymond's. I'm going to head back now. And this is the Mass that most people attend today would be referred to as Novus Ordo, the New Order. And there's some sort of issues going on in the Catholic Church today, because Pope Francis recently issued a document, and I don't know how to say the Latin term for it, but essentially putting everyone on notice that is attending the extraordinary form of the Mass, or the Latin rite, that was going to be phased out over time and basically done away with. And he said that is to bring greater unity in the church. Although attendance at churches that celebrate the extraordinary form of the Mass is skyrocketing, while attendance at churches celebrating Novus Ordo has been plummeting. So I'm not sure, how this is going to play out. My wife and I do not attend the extraordinary form of the Mass, but we want to. And the extraordinary form of the Mass, as I said, has been celebrated from antiquity all the way to 1962. And the Mass is said in Latin. And basically, in the extraordinary form of the Mass, the priest comes out and stands at the tabernacle and faces the crucifix with his back to the congregation. And whereas in the Novus Ordo Mass, the priest comes out, stands behind the altar, and faces the congregation. And it's almost like, your focus at the Novus Ordo Mass, it's like your focus is on the priest rather than your focus being on the crucifix. And a few other, I think, differences would be, at the extraordinary form of the Mass, you receive communion only on the tongue, not in the hand, as is more often the case in the Novus Ordo Mass. And in the extraordinary form of the Mass, you're on your knees when you receive communion. You don't stand and just put your hands out. You get down on your knees, and the priest would place the host on your tongue. So that's another difference. And I'm not going to get into, on a moto vlog, all the reasons for why that may be. Just that is a difference between the two Masses. And another difference would be women in the extraordinary form of the Mass are almost entirely veiled. And married women will be wearing a black veil. Unmarried women will be wearing a white veil over their head. And I can't remember in my memory seeing a woman veiled at a Novus Ordo Mass. So, in any event, my wife and I really want to start attending the extraordinary form of the Mass, but I'm not sure that that's even going to be an option for us because of the decision of Francis to start cutting back and curtailing. And even before implementing his directions, we would have faced a 1-hour drive to get up to the church, which is I think it's Saint Benedict or Bernadette. I'm sorry, Saint Bernadette. And it's up, as I said, it's up the Garden State Parkway to about Margate or Atlantic City, and then it's a little bit of a drive away from the parkway there. So anyway, that's sort of our situation. I'm coming back down to North Cape May now from the villas on Bayshore Road. I've ridden this many, many times. And I think as you think forward for the Catholic laity down here, it is really an elderly population, and the pastor of the parish here said with each passing day the congregation here is getting one step closer to I guess to heaven. I guess that could be said for any parish anywhere, right? I mean, people every day are aging. But this is really an elderly population down here, an elderly congregation. And the one active priest, which is the pastor, just turned 70. So I'm sure he's going to be retiring in the next couple of years. So attendance will be more than likely continuing to go down at the masses here, and I'm not sure what they're going to do, because there are not people, young men, entering the priesthood to replace all these retiring priests. So we'll have to see what happens. And I think I will end this video as I've ended several other videos by going down to the bay and riding along the bay and stopping and concluding the video there. I don't expect that you're going to see much activity at this time of the day, but we'll see. So I'm not sure how, I mean, I don't have much viewership of these videos anyway, so I guess it doesn't really matter, but to anybody that does watch this video, I'm not sure how much they really are interested or care in the content of my comments on this video, but they still get to see some scenery of riding around down here, and what you would see from the seat of a motorcycle. And to me, it's so much more enjoyable than riding around in a car. Coming up on the Delaware Bay. I don't see many people down there. There are some people down on the beach, but it's at this point certainly not crowded. And I think it looks like it's going to be a decent beach day. As I said at the start of this video, the temperature is about 81 degrees, but the heat index today is about 88. So it feels a little warmer than the actual temperature. And what you see in the sky is what the forecast is for the day today. So there's no rain in the forecast, but it's partly sunny or partly cloudy, I guess, depending upon how you want to look at it. I see one parasailer out there, which I'm sure you cannot see on the video, but there is one parasailer out there. Okay, I think I will conclude this video right here. And you know what, I think I will not conclude this video right here. I think I'll take a ride down Franklin, because somebody, one of my viewers commented that they used to live at 1300 Franklin. So I'm going to go down just to show 1300 Franklin. If I'm not mistaken, the next, I think 1300 starts at Indiana, which is right here. So this is 1300 Franklin, for the viewer that mentioned that I think he lived here as a youth. So anyway, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Take care.